Okay, solicitors report.
Thank you. First item on the agenda, just to clarify, what we will be considering is an ordinance approving the intergovernmental agreement. This matter concerns the Frost Lane project. Because the project is a joint project between the township and the borough, state law requires an intergovernmental agreement entered into between the two municipalities. This technically is a hearing to adopt an ordinance. The ordinance was duly advertised in the Bucks County Advance on July 29, 2010. It's also deposited with the Bucks County Law Library on July 29, 2010. And I would ask council if I can have a motion to approve an ordinance of the Borough of Newtown, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, approving an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with Newtown Township and authorizing the appropriate officers of the borough to execute same for the purposes as set forth therein, which said intergovernmental cooperation agreement relates to certain drainage and road improvements to be undertaken in the Frost Lane area of the township and borough. That agreement to be attached as an exhibit to the ordinance. That's the motion or the request.
Is there a second?
Or second. I can't make the motion.
Oh, you can't mention. I'm so sorry.
Oh.
Okay, who would like to make the motion?
So moved.
Okay, now who would like to second?
Second.
All right, so moved and seconded. Any discussion on council? Should we summarize the details of this intergovernmental agreement for the audience, and that we are, actually I'll let you do that, Paul.
I'd be happy to. Essentially, the borough and the township had previously voted on adopting a bid by a contractor to perform the improvements. The intergovernmental agreement essentially provides that the township will head the project. Their engineer will be managing the project, although the borough engineer will have the opportunity to obtain information regarding the status of the project and to also inspect the project and have their input heard with respect to the project. The parties will be splitting all costs related to the project, including engineering, legal fees, and the actual costs of the contractors. My understanding, speaking with the township solicitor, is that they approved a similar ordinance at last night's meeting. I believe that's the case. Tomorrow night's meeting. Thank you. Otherwise, if there aren't any specific questions, but that's the general idea of the agreement.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is regarding the fee schedule. It is a resolution. It is a resolution of the legislative character. As such, it was advertised in the Bucks County Advance on July 29, 2010, and deposited with the Bucks County Law Library also on July 29, 2010. And I would ask for a motion to adopt Resolution 08-10-10A, approving the 2010 Newtown Borough Fee Schedule. The resolution itself is a resolution of the Newtown Borough Council adopting a schedule of fees for 2010 to establish fees and escrow deposits for subdivision and land development applications and plan submissions, to establish a schedule of engineer, legal, and/or other consultant fees, to establish a dispute resolution procedure for fee disputes, to establish fees for zoning, use, and building permits and applications, to establish fees for parking permits, to establish building permit fees, to set forth fees and charges for road opening, frontage improvement permits, stormwater management, and other miscellaneous permits and applications, and to establish charges for Newtown Borough publications and maps.
I did have one point to raise, and this, and I had circulated, I don't know if you all saw an email from me, circulated some concern about one of the fees that's on this schedule, and I apologize that I didn't find this until very late in this process. But one of the things that this fee schedule does do is it adds a fee for a sketch plan submission as part of subdivision and land development. Under the current fee schedule, this is a free activity that requires no application, requires no fees, requires no escrow. It also does not trigger any professional reviews or anything on this process. This proposed fee schedule that we're considering this evening adds fees and escrows for the submission of sketch plans for both residential and non-residential subdivision and land development proposals. And my question to council is, do we want to change, I guess it's a philosophical change, does the Borough of Newtown want to consider a sketch plan proposal to be more formal, to have more substance than the current procedure? The current procedure is that you can walk into the Planning Commission meeting, you can get on the agenda, and you can come in with something scratched out on a piece of scratch paper and talk about ideas you might have, and then the Planning Commission will give you some feedback, which may help you to determine your further design. By adding the fee and an escrow to this activity, you're formalizing something that is currently not formal. So I raise that question to council.
If I may?
Sure.
I spoke earlier today with Joanne Brown, the zoning officer, regarding this issue. The fees were originally recommended by her, the changes to the fee schedule, and we addressed this issue. So I'm really just passing along the message. In preparing the changes, she had reviewed a number of other municipalities, and her recommendation was based on what she had seen in other municipalities. Her belief was that the sketch plan process, though typically not formally handled, is part of the formal land development process, and though it is not a required step, her comment was that it does typically involve work by staff at the township to distribute copies of the proposed sketch plan among the members of the Planning Commission. Also, she does believe that in the past, or at least in her experience in sketch plans, that it often will require some professional review, maybe not to the extent of the preliminary plan. And with regard to the idea of bringing in a piece of scratch paper, I guess she kind of distinguished that process from what is the sketch plan process that would be subject to this. So again, she wasn't here tonight and asked me to just pass on those comments regarding that particular provision.
I see both sides of the issue. I think in a very simplistic way, to talk about a sketch plan as being something that's created without a lot of money on the part of the applicant is good, because it may be something conceptually that he or she wants to have reviewed without going through not a lot, even a little engineering and a lot of technical preparation and associated expense. By the same token, I think the other side of the coin is that once you get beyond a very basic project with any level of complexity, then there ought to be a threshold for a sketch plan as a quality product to come before council. Now, granted, not a preliminary plan, not full-blown engineering, but there ought to be something as a threshold. It strikes me that latter, that second description of applicants is something that would probably assure a better quality of product coming to Planning Commission initially than would otherwise come before it. So I'm sensitive to your comments, Julie, because I think they make a lot of sense. By the same token, these fees and these escrows are required in other municipalities, I think, who have already gone through that experience and decided there ought to be something on the books as far as fees for it. So that's a long-winded way of saying that I was following this fee schedule all along and kind of felt the way I just expressed, that it's a good idea. If it turns out that we find going forward that it truly is onerous for us as a borough, it seems to me we can also delete it. But as I say, given what we may have in this borough in the future in terms of some projects which do have a level of complexity, I think there's a benefit to having a better quality product as a sketch plan initially. Might bring clarity to the consideration by the Planning Commission earlier, and might just make the process smoother. So those are my thoughts on it, but as I say, I see both sides of the argument.